Alright, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to another video here on the channel, and today we're going to be talking about President Biden and whether or not he or his administration might end up banning TikTok in the United States in the very near future. Now, if you live here in the United States, you probably have heard at least once or twice on the news over the last, 3 years or so, like a rumor basically that both now President Trump and President Biden were trying to ban TikTok, or they were trying to pass some sort of legislation that handles TikTok differently. Obviously, this is something that's been kind of going on here in the United States for a long time. This is not the first time that anyone has ever really called the validity of TikTok out, you know what I mean? Called out whether or not, it could be Chinese spyware, whether or not it could pose a national security concern for the United States, and ultimately whether or not TikTok is going to become more influential than American/Western social media. Because believe it or not, the United States government does not want the dominant social media platform in the world to be a Chinese ran and owned one, especially one that apparently more than 100 million US users are active on. The Biden administration has threatened to ban TikTok from the United States unless the app's Chinese owners agree to spin off their share of the social media platform, TikTok acknowledged Wednesday evening. The apparent ultimatum by a US multi-agency panel known as the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States, or the CFIUS, marks a possible turning point in the long-running negotiations between federal officials concerned about TikTok's links to China and a wildly popular social media company with more than 100 million US users. The recent divestiture request was first reported Wednesday by the Wall Street Journal. TikTok later confirmed to CNN that CFIUS had contacted the company, adding that it did not dispute the journal's report. But TikTok declined to discuss specifics of the US government's request, including details around its timing. Alright, so obviously this is pretty major news. I mean, TikTok is one of the largest social media companies in the world, there's a good chance that a pretty good portion of you watching this video right now also use TikTok on your phone. And I'm not gonna lie, I am also a TikTok user. I enjoy the platform. I find a lot of funny or interesting or just thought-provoking things on there. I know a lot of the content that's like stereotypically TikTok or whatever is just like cringy dance compilations and just weird shit like that, but I mean, it really more or less, kind of like really any social media these days, it really just depends on what you watch and what the algorithm eventually starts suggesting you based on your habits and your viewing patterns. But of course, there is a huge concern around TikTok because obviously TikTok is not an inherently American, I should say, social media company. Now, when you think of most of the major social media platforms in the world that are actually, used globally, you think of, your Snapchats, your Instagrams, your Facebooks, your Twitters, places like this. And usually the social media platforms that you're thinking of are actually American companies. Facebook owns obviously Facebook, they own I think WhatsApp, and they own Instagram. So most of the major social media platforms that the world is using at this point are American ran ones, right? So obviously for the US government, that gives them the opportunity to, work with these companies more directly, to monitor people on a mass scale or investigate, sift through data, things like that, right? Social media is a great tool for monitoring people. I mean, even for the government, obviously, you can't tweet some crazy shit like you're gonna go to the Capitol building and blank, I would never say something like that in a YouTube video. Please don't come to my house, Secret Service. But you can't just say some shit like that on Twitter and, it just go over. The government has inherent interests in having the majority of the world using American platforms. And now that there's one that actually rivals the American companies in TikTok, the US government doesn't really know what to do because they can't really handle or manage this company like they can an American company, If it's an American company that they want to do business with or interact with in really any way, they just show up at their headquarters in California, knock on the door, and they can talk to probably just about anyone they want to, right? Obviously, when you're going through the Chinese Communist Party, which is the ruling party of China, there's a lot more restrictions in place. There's a lot less things that foreign governments can do. So obviously, when it comes to having a massive Chinese social media company out there with over a third of the US population using it actively, then the government starts to like look around like, oh shit, hey, we're not in control like we were supposed to be here. What's going on? You know, like, yeah, it's just kind of how it works. Now, quote, if protecting national security is the objective, divestment doesn't solve the problem, TikTok's spokesperson Maureen Shanahan said in a statement. A change in ownership would not impose any new restrictions on data flows or access. The best way to address concerns about national security is with the transparent US-based protection of US user data and systems with robust third-party monitoring, vetting, and verification, which we are already implementing. China said Thursday the United States was, quote, unreasonably suppressing TikTok and also spreading, quote, false information about data security. Quote, the U.S. side has so far failed to produce evidence that TikTok threatens U.S. national security, China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesperson Wang Wenbin said at a regular press briefing. TikTok has been negotiating with CFI US, a group composed of the Departments of Treasury, Justice, Homeland Security, Defense, and Commerce, among others, for more than 2 years on a deal that might allow the app to continue operating in the U.S. market in the face of security and privacy concerns. U.S. officials have raised fears that the Chinese government could use its national security laws to pressure TikTok or its Chinese parent ByteDance into handing over the personal information of TikTok's US users, which might then benefit Chinese intelligence activities or influence campaigns. The Treasury Department, which chairs CFI US, declined to comment. Alright, so obviously, you know, hearing TikTok/China come with these takes is nothing new, right? So basically, TikTok and China are both kind of downplaying the US response to this. Oh, you know, the US is overreacting. Banning TikTok's not going to do anything about national security. They want to provide false info about this Chinese app. Now, you know, you got these two sides bickering. You know, one side says, oh, the US is lying for their own good so they can try and ban TikTok. The US says they're lying because they want to steal US user data. Now, honestly, the truth is pretty much somewhere in the middle. I mean, to say that there's legitimate national security concerns surrounding TikTok would be a massive understatement. I mean, from this article, as a source here, they say that TikTok has more than 100 million monthly users, and this is a country with 330 million or so people, so let's just say roughly 1/3 of the US population is actively using TikTok. Now, if the Chinese government really wanted to, yes, they could enact their national security laws, or they could just try to pull the strings like the CCP is known to, and they could try to demand that the company that owns TikTok hands over US users' data and whatnot, you know, for national security purposes or whatever. Obviously, the Chinese government having data on over 100 million plus Americans on things from their age, location, all their personal interests and hobbies, times that they're active, awake, and asleep, all these other things and all this other data that TikTok could potentially get through all these different ways would be pretty insane for a foreign country, especially a massive adversary to the United States, to end up having. Now, I mean, would it be the end of the world? No, it wouldn't be the end of the world whatsoever, but I mean, obviously the goal is for it to not happen, and that's what the US is trying to prevent as it stands right now. Well, you might be sitting here asking yourself, but Optimus, what exactly is different about, you know, this China and TikTok situation compared to American social media platforms overseas? Well, obviously there have been a pretty good amount of countries and territories around the world that have censored American social media, if not banned it outright. Loads of American platforms are banned or, you know, basically just cut off in plenty of territories around the world because these social media platforms can be used to basically research information that goes against the government-created propaganda of these countries. For instance, like in North Korea, you're not just going to load up Twitter, check the trending page, and see some, like, you know, awesome story about NASA getting ready to go back to the moon or something in the Artemis program. You're going to be seeing about how Kim Jong-un fucking scored 300 points in a fucking disabled dolphin basketball charity game while he ate Skittles and flew on an actual rainbow, or whatever these people actually believe at this point, man. Like, that's the point that we've gotten to, you know what I mean? You know, these countries, they don't want American social media, a lot of these places, and even in China, like, that kind of stuff is restricted on their internet. They don't have these things. So it's really nothing new for countries to, like, kind of, you know, play political games by, like, banning social medias. But obviously, here in the United States, this hasn't really ever happened before. This is kind of like new ground. Now, for me personally, do I believe that TikTok should be banned as a national security concern? I don't know fully. Now, from the way everything is kind of looking here, it's really going to depend on whether or not they do divest and they do sell their interest in TikTok away from a Chinese-owned company. If they do actually bow to U.S. pressure and do that, not only would that actually be kind of insane to think that the U.S. bullied a Chinese company into selling one of the most popular social medias away so it could operate in the U.S., not only would that be insane, but it would be I would think, diplomatic slash political victory for the United States over China. The talks with TikTok have stretched on without resolution, prompting criticism of the Biden administration by some U.S. lawmakers who have pushed to ban the app through legislation. Late last year, Congress passed and President Joe Biden signed legislation blocking TikTok from U.S. government devices, following in the footsteps of numerous state governments. Since then, the European Union and Canada have also followed suit, reflecting growing suspicion among Western governments to TikTok. But so far, there has been no evidence that the Chinese government has actually accessed TikTok user data, and no government has enacted a broader ban targeting TikTok on personal devices. TikTok has sought to address policymakers' concerns with voluntary technical and bureaucratic safeguards that it says will help ensure U.S. user data may only be accessed by U.S. employees. Part of that initiative, which the company calls Project Texas, involves storing personal data with the U.S. cloud giant Oracle. TikTok launched a similar push in Europe this month that it calls Project Clover. That has not stopped TikTok's U.S. critics. Some U.S. lawmakers have moved to expand Biden's authority to impose a nationwide TikTok ban on top of the restrictions targeting U.S. government devices, and independent of the CFI U.S. process, a proposal the White House quickly welcomed. The heat will likely intensify next week as TikTok CEO Shao Chu is expected to face a grilling before the House Energy and Commerce Committee. Wednesday's development suggests a shift has occurred in the typically opaque CFI U.S. talks, though the exact nature of the movement remains unclear. According to Harry Broadman, a former CFI U.S. official, quote, "It could be that the divestiture demand is the end of the discussion, but it's also equally likely that the divestiture is a component of what CFI U.S. wants in terms of safeguarding national security," Broadman said, quote, "Unless I'm in the room at CFI U.S., it's really hard to know where the discussions are, and frankly, what's discussed in public does not often coincide with what's going on around the table." Now, honestly, that last paragraph hits right. And that's the thing, like right now, we don't really know where things are, you know, like there's a lot of speculation. The Biden administration seems to support the idea of a nationwide ban on TikTok, along with a lot of U.S. lawmakers. So if TikTok isn't sold away from a Chinese company, there is a very legitimate chance that in the coming months, the Biden administration might begin moving to actually legally do something about TikTok in the United States, including but not limited to a full-on ban of TikTok across the country. Now, obviously, this would be an absolutely insane moment, but for right now, we don't really know much more. What we do know is that next week there will be a huge talk between the CEO of TikTok and the House Energy and Commerce Committee. This is going to be a big conversation to kind of focus in on, so I might make a follow-up video to this when all of that happens to kind of, you know, recap what exactly is said and kind of move forward from there. But with that being said, thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're brand new around here on the channel, follow me over on Twitter and Twitch at @SubToOptimus. Make sure to check out Shoptimus down below, and also thank you to my Watch Optimus subscribers. Your support helps the channel tremendously, and until my next video, guys, this is Optimus, well, talking about a potential ban of TikTok in the United States, and signing out.